All right, just one moment, y'all. Let me get my sheet. Well, all right, so we'll start off with the in-person. Again, I appreciate your patience on our technical difficulties. Everything worked last month, so of course, being technology, it did not work this month. So we'll start with introductions. Rick, I guess either Rick, y'all mind starting us off with this table?
Rick and Drew, Richard, day 4 days. Terry, November 4, Golf, Juliet. Steve, Kill 4, and Papa Tango. Lee, Kill Mike, 4, Ham, W4 TMF. David, you. John, Kill up to 4, Dan, 84 HB. Terry, 1, and 4, and W4 Sean, KK4, LNC. Mike, KW4 RL.
Pam, AM4 XL.
Scott, AM4 PNU.
And Mary Jean, KY4FB.
All right, so we need to vote on the minutes and the treasurer's report.
Make a motion. We accept the treasurer's report and the minutes.
All right, Ham Hilliard has made a motion that we accept the treasurer's report and secretary's minutes as published in Sparks. Is there a second? Pat Lane has seconded the motion. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand if you are on Zoom. All right, any opposed? The motion unanimously passes. We'll head into announcements next. And since we're going to see how this works, Joe, will you start with announcements with what you have?
Yes, be glad to. For training, the next training session probably will not be until late June or early July for a tech class. The next item would be Huntsville bus trip. The Huntsville Ham Fest is August the 20th and 21st. The bus trip would be on the 20th. We're trying to see how many people are willing to pay $85 to go on the bus trip. The bus has gone up from $1,800 to $2,337. The Ham Fest has gone up from 10 to 15, unless you buy by the 30th of June. If you buy before the June 30th, it's $12. Every food has gone up. It looks like we'll probably have ham and sausage biscuits because the bacon, the ham and sausage biscuits are $3 a piece. The bacon biscuit is $4 a piece from Danvers. Lynn said that bacon is about 75 cents a slice, and they're having to go up. And but we would need to find out how many people are willing to go, because at the board meeting, and just don't think that we need to spend $700 or $800, $900 on a bus trip that only about 20 people go on. So we need to see how many people are willing to go so we can make a commitment for the bus trip. I would like in the Sparks, I'd like to have it, if you're willing to pay $85, send me an email with the subject line Huntsville Ham Fest and your name and information so I can have it on the roster. And then we'll need to collect it by the 30th of June. We can collect it at field day if you want to pay then. I think that's all, if I can remember correctly. Mary Jean, go ahead.
And how much was it last year? I know it was different.
For the ticket,
Yeah, well, not just the overall, but
Joe, how much was it last year
per person,
per person?
$70, I believe.
it's about $15, but the entry's not 10, so that's not bad.
Yeah, does anybody else have any questions on in person or Zoom or comments,
There
concerns?
were some late people that was 80, I believe $85.
I guess, all right, so we'll do a show of hands if that's okay, and this is not committing you to a ticket, but this helps us kind of determine if it's worth pursuing or not, because as Joe said, everything's going up, so it's not a shock, and we certainly as a club try to do everything we can to keep costs low, but there's only so much we can do, so, I guess, Joe, if you can look on, at the in-person, but if you can raise your hand, if you would be willing to, or interested in riding the bus and paying $85 to do so, if you can raise your hand, if you're on Zoom, and in person, raise your hand. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 in person who would be
Okay,
interested.
Dave said he would do it. Anybody else interested? It's on Zoom. Okay, got you, Dave. Ned, got you.
Pat and Barry, Steve, Perry Hayes, Scott Adams.
Hold on a second. It was Scott Adams.
The date is August 20th.
August 20th.
And for those of you who have not gone, I know, last year we went and it was still pretty, there was still a lot going on with COVID, but everything was spaced out a lot more. I don't know if it's gonna be that way this year or not. But it was very nice. So I know it sounds like a lot of money, but you could look at it maybe if you like set aside and didn't go and get McDonald's or something else that's been expensive, 1 or 2 times a month. But if you were planning on driving, gas is expensive for driving a personal car as well. And, you just can't beat the ability to go and get to go prop your feet up in the middle of the day after walking around. Do you have everything you need for that, Joe?
Well, one other thing is if you drive your car, there's parking. If you're gonna park in the parking garage, that's probably $15, if not 10 or 15. Or if you park on the street, you're gonna be parking quite a ways away, and having to walk quite a bit. And then after that, the driving back after standing on your feet all day. So, and the bus is backed up to the loading dock to where you can come back and rest your weary feet in a comfortable seat in air conditioning.
All right, anything else for us?
No, that's all.
All right, Dan, you want to give a VE update?
Okay, started off a little shaky, we just had, Van Ham up there at VE, but, Mary Jean came to the rescue there to be our third VE, and I think this was her first test session like that, so she's got that under the belt now. We had, David, Bill, right here, just, passed his check. Now, and last month, John Simmons right here, he got his tech, and today he upgraded to general.
While I'm over here, Ham.
Don't know how many of you know about the Armed Forces Day Cross Band Communications Day. It's going to be this coming Saturday. This is a
communications test of military stations transmitting on military frequencies, and hams being able to listen to them on the military frequencies and then transmit back to the military stations on the ham band. And it's an opportunity for the hams to talk to some of the military stations, Pentagon, Andrews Air Force Base. There are about 5 museum ships that are gonna be on. Okinawa is supposed to be on, Naval Academy. I could go on, there's a lot of stuff. Well, we are putting the Naval Support Activity Mid-South, which is Bureau of Personnel for the Navy, where all the manpower assignments come out of Millington, where all the Navy bases, ships, aircraft, all business. And we're gonna put it on next Saturday. Some of you have probably been out when we had the building out at N100 and we're about a golf course. Well, that building's still there, towers are still there, bridges. City of Millington has given us a room at the Millington Fire Training Academy on 5591 Descartes Street. That's probably close to the end of the runway, about 150 yards southeast, southwest of the radar dome. And we will be there from 7 a.m. Saturday morning to about 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, depending upon activity on the band. Good opportunity if you haven't done any HF work, to give you an opportunity to get on the HF frequencies and talk to hams all across the country. If the propagation is right, we'll probably even get some foreign stuff in there. Believe it or not, a lot of the DX stations like to participate on board. Pat and I have done Armed Forces Day for 20 years, 25 years, long time. And we've done all different places, river boats, pumping stations, to just whatever. So this is all inside, nice air conditioning room. So want to get out, come on, we've got gotta have about 10 people right now that have expressed interest. We could use a few more, come out and spend 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, spend a day with us. We'll have some breakfast food early, and some donuts probably, and coffee and that kind of stuff, but to be on your own for lunch. Anyway, that's what we got going, and we sure would like to have some extra hands to help on the radio the whole day.
Thank you, Han. Speaking of exercises and field days and things like that, just a reminder, again, field day, the ARRL field day is gonna be June 25th and 26th. So that is it starts at what, 1 o'clock, I think, on Saturday, and goes until about 1 o'clock on Sunday. And we will be set up at the Germantown Municipal Park. This will be kind of a cooperative event with some of the other clubs in the area. And I think most everybody here has been to ARRL field day, out with where we have it, but, and we'll get more information out later, but just again, we're gonna keep mentioning it, and we're gonna mention it more often as we get closer, so, I know we're looking forward to that. We have an opening for director of programs, and, if that's something you may be interested in, that person, their primary job is just to line up speakers for us, whether that's in person or on Zoom. So if you might have an interest in doing that, let one of the board members know, so we can get you some more information. All right, so our email list, we are trying to go through and just double check, to make sure email addresses on there are accurate. Because we've heard a couple people say that they are not getting Spark, so they think they've signed up for it. And we have some who may be getting it 2 or 3 times. So if you can, Sparks went out out this Monday, so yesterday. If you got Spark, great, that's what we want to hear. If you did not get Spark and you think that you should have gotten Spark, you can tell any board member, but if you want to email Mike, our director of publications, his email is mheagle85@gmail.com, and that's also in Spark. So if you're either getting it multiple times and need to remove some addresses that you don't use anymore, or if you're not getting it and you think you should be, let him know so we can make sure you get that. Of course, whether or not you get Spark, we try to announce any major announcements on the nightly net. So if you haven't been checking in, that's still a great place to do. It meets every night at 8 o'clock, except for the nights that we have this club meeting. So the 146.820 repeater, check in. It's a great way to learn because we've had a lot of new hands over the past few years. And so it's certainly a great place to either listen or check in, learn what's going on. We also have a nightly net, the 440 net on Friday. So that is something that we started up. We don't have a whole lot of participation on there, but we would encourage everybody to consider checking in. And it's the 443.700 frequency. Got a +5 megahertz offset and a PL tone of 107.2. And that's every Friday at 8:30. Or if the Delta Club net goes over past 8:30, it'll be right after that information net. So it's a good way. It's on the tower in Brunswick beside the 82 repeater, but it has it seems like it's got some great reception for everybody who checks in. So if you haven't checked in on it yet, we'd certainly love to have you. Are there any other announcements in person?
I figured you'd want to give that.
This is Barry, W5CJ. I went out and checked the repeater site this morning, Brunswick, and it looks like they have finished putting up all the hard lines. You know, ran a whole new section up there, and I went and checked, and it looks like they have switched it over. So channel 30 should be on its new speed line now. Now, how we're gonna do, I don't know. Hopefully we'll be cleared up pretty good, but time will tell. You know, not much else we can do. But the shipping containers are gone, and so that means everything's up. And like I say, I did physically look at the switch over, and they had switched it over. And you know, I will tell, just let me know.
Thank you. And I guess I should pause for a moment. Do we have any questions so far about any of the announcements on Zoom or in person? Any questions?
I got a question, not about that, but when you sent the email out this time, it specifically says Zoom meeting. It doesn't say Zoom and. Now, I'm told if you go on the internet and look, it does say. But maybe the reason it's not smart is
Yeah. So he mentioned that we had it on Spark where it just said Zoom and not Zoom and in person. So that may be why it's a little sparse tonight. And that certainly could be the case. I know there's a lot going on. It sounds like COVID cases are starting to drift up a little bit in Shelby County. Of course, that may or may not have an impact on your decision to be on Zoom or in person today, but I know that's something that we look at each month with everything that goes on between technical issues and the health situation and all of it. So certainly, if you have any preference one way or another, feel free to let us know, and we'll keep deciding technically at the board meeting each time what we'll do. And I apologize for that, though. We'll do a better job of double checking it from here, but we are happy for those people who stay on Zoom and joined us. Any other questions or comments so far? Any other announcements? All right. All right, well, we're gonna take just a short break, and, so that way, after that, Joe, I'll hand it over to Joe so he can introduce our speaker. Because our speaker, oh, yeah, he is on, perfect. So we'll take maybe a 5 to 8 minute break or so. So if you're in person and you want to get a snack or something like that, I don't know, hang out for a few minutes. All right. We'll be back in a bit.
All right, there, some people had questions about, Ham Hilliard's,
Frequency was 14682, that's what you.
his, event Saturday. It's Saturday out at Millington in the, Millington Fire Department, Training Center. It's on the Navy Memphis north side on the western edge of the north side of Navy Memphis. For those that are interested in going out. I've worked it a number of times when Pat did it through the Corps of Engineers, and it's been a lot of fun.
Volume button down, up.
I don't know why it's not hitting. But it worked fine.
I figured I'd mute the group. Any questions? Anybody?
Hey, Joe, it's your classes in person or are they do Zoom?
It just depends on what the coronavirus is doing. They've been Zoom.
Okay, thanks.
I'm doing everything just like Mr. White taught me.
Hey, Joe, is that
Yeah.
event this Saturday? That's for Armed Forces Day?
It's Armed Forces Day. It's a week early because of Dayton Ham mentioned the following weekend.
Okay, but that's the title of the event is Armed Forces Day?
It's Armed Forces Communications Exercise.
Oh, okay. And so it's in coordination with
It's in coordination with Army Mars.
Army Mars. Okay. Is there something in Sparks about it? Do you know?
I don't think so. Do you get ARRL newsletter?
Yes, I do.
Okay, it'll be in the newsletter. It's
Okay,
been
I'll
in
check.
already, but it'll probably be in again this week with the frequencies that the Mars stations are calling out on.
Okay, I'll check.
Mars
Thanks.
stations call out on a Mars frequency that you're listening, that the ham is listening to, and they will tell what frequency that they're listening on in the ham band.
Got it. Thank you.
On 60 meters, I'm not sure which channel, but On 60 meters, it's not offset because you're actually on the military frequency. Just talked to Mary Jean, and she wants us to do some talking so that they can come up with the speaker that so the people at Ellendale can hear the people on Zoom and hear Joe when he gives his presentation. So do you have any other questions that you want to bring up? Anybody that's on Zoom?
Joe, Dan Weiner, anything out of the FCC on their changes in the fees and stuff? Have
Yeah,
we heard how it's
$35.
working?
$35 for new licenses, renewals, and vanity call signs. The other upgrades are free. Upgrades are no administrative charge. Changes of address, phone number, name, email address are all no administrative fee.
All right, hey, Joe, can we get Joe St. Columbia to talk a little so we can test out?
Joe, will you?
Sure. Matter of fact, that was something I was going to bring up to the group that had nothing to do with my my presentation. Today, I called the ARRL and a minor complaint. Back in March, I renewed my subscription or my membership to the ARRL, and I had not received my QST magazine. The last one I received was February 4 March. And that being said, I called the lady up and she was very nice. And I just explained to her, you know, I hadn't received, and I think that the June issue should be coming out soon. And she says, yeah, it's being mailed out next week. I just said, well, I haven't received, you know, my April or May issue. And basically what happened, if anybody had renewed their subscription or their membership in the last week of March, you might not have gotten renewed because they did something with their website. They changed web hosts or something, and some people fell in the hole, and I was one of them. So if you renewed your membership in the last week in March, you might want to make a phone call to the ARRL.
Thank you, Joe. Mary Jean, did that work?
Well, we are ready if you are, and this is not working as well as it did last month for us, but we should be good to go as good as we're going to get tonight. So Joe, I'm going to hand it over to you. If you would introduce Joe, and yeah, we'll have our program.
All right. Joe St. Columbia is the gentleman who will give our presentation on bonding, grounding mobile vehicles for ham radio. Joe is a life member of Delta Club. he was, lived in Memphis. I believe you got into Delta Club, what, in the late eighties, Joe?
Yeah, yeah, I did. A matter of fact, I wasn't living in Memphis at the time. I was living here in Helena. But,
Oh, okay. But anyway, I got to know Joe through Delta Club back in late eighties, early nineties until he moved back to Helena. And since then, I've gotten to see him more because he and Bob White and several others started up a club in Helena, and I've gone down to help with the VE sessions. And he is with the University of Arkansas Phillips County Community College as their industrial.
yeah, the director of workforce training. Yeah.
Director of Workforce Training. And with that, he has coerced the university into a trailer that the ham club is getting ham equipment on. It's a demo for several different groups, but for emergency communications, they have a nice trailer now. So with further ado, I will share the screen and let you go sharing the screen.
All right, thank you very much, Joe, and thanks, Joe. Thanks for inviting me. Let me see if I can get the screen up here. Can
You got it up?
can everybody see that now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So yeah, so I would like to thank Joe for inviting me to speak to the group, and you know, it's been a long time since I've been to the Delta Club meeting. I was well, let me just share the next screen with you guys. So obviously, we're going to talk about vehicle bonding tonight. A little bit about myself. You see my call sign there, N5MIG. I was first licensed in '87. Got my extra class in 1990. Life member of the Delta Club, as Joe said. I was treasurer of the Delta Club and also vice president of the Delta Club. I served under some really good amateurs, some really good operators. Dana Stein, Boyd Webb, Buddy Spiegel, Suresh Kagu, Steve Feltman. You guys may know some of those names, and of course Joe as well. Served with those guys back in the late '80s and early '90s. I'm currently a member of 3905 Century Club, of course, the Delta Club, like I said, the Rotarians of Amateur Radio. I work a lot of POTA. I'm involved in AMSAT and the ARL, of course. I'm currently president of the president of the Helena Amateur Radio Club, and I run a lot of HF Mobile. I've been doing it since 1988. Now, what I am not an electrical engineer. Everything I've learned has been through the School of Hard Knocks. So I'm not trying to claim I know a whole lot about this. You guys may have questions and I might not be able to answer them, but I'll do the best I can. But at the end of the presentation, I'm going to give you guys some sources so that you can go and look up some things on your own if I can't answer your questions, okay? So, and Joe, if you would monitor the chat to see if anybody has a question through chat, and we'll go from there, okay? Will you mind fielding those? Okay, thank you. All right, so these are a couple of my vehicles, and this is just a little bit. I first started off with a Jeep, and I've been through several different vehicles that I run mobile. My favorite antenna to run is the screwdriver antenna. I've run High Sierras, I've run the Tar Heels, but I'll tell you this, you don't have to have an expensive antenna. For years, I ran ham sticks, I ran the Hustler antennas, a lot of different antennas. And guys, if you do it right, even with a $20 ham stick, you know, 50, 60, 70 contacts an hour easily. If you go through something like POTA or something like that, if you guys are familiar with that. So what is bonding? Well, first off, I'm not gonna, if I was in in the room with you guys, maybe we could go a little back and forth, but I'm going to try to talk a little bit about this without asking and trying to get a lot of participation. Unfortunately, that's the way these Zoom calls work. But I get a lot of questions. Well, what's the difference between bonding and grounding? You know, is grounding bonding? Is bonding grounding? Okay. Well, bonding can be grounding, but grounding is not necessarily bonding. And that just sounds maybe a little crazy. And maybe a few of you old timers know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you take a wire and you run it to the ground post on your battery, on your car battery, that is not bonding. Okay. Bonding is going to be done with metal straps, and we'll get into that just a little later. But what is bonding? Okay. So is bonding just a heavy grounding? Well, sorta, but yes and no. You can read this here. Bonding, like I said a little bit, it can be one or the other. Bonding is crucial in creating a reliable ground plane, is what it amounts to. When we say bonding, what we're talking about is getting the entire vehicle to be one piece. That's what bonding really is. So in other words, you're going to get, and you think, well, it's all metal and it's got nuts and bolts holding it together. It's welded together. It's bound to be one piece. Well, that's not necessarily true, especially in a truck. And I will tell you this too, without proper grounding or proper bonding rather, if you'll notice that last line there in parentheses, the new Ford F-150 Lightning will have 3,000 computer chips on board. That's the new electric vehicle that Ford's coming out with. So if you don't believe bonding is important, you will if you own one of those, because you will have to bond the fire out of that thing to get it where you keep the computer noise out of your radios. And that's one of the things we'll talk about later, is some of the things that you needed, how you can test whether you bonded right or not. Okay. Okay, so here's some more frequently asked questions about bonding. Is bonding necessary? Absolutely. Not only does bonding make a better ground plane, bonding also reduces and may eliminate engine noise, like we talked about earlier, and computer noise in a car. Back when I started this in the 80s, when I started mobile, I didn't have to do near the amount of bonding that I have to today. Is grounding the same as bonding? I talked about that earlier. You know, if you run a ground wire, you know, from like, so when you plug in your radio, you know, you've got a positive lead, a negative lead. You know, is that considered bonding? No. Okay, that's getting power to your radio. Bonding would be to bond that radio. There's a little screw on the back of your radio. Now, again, of course, I don't mean to be talking down to you old timers, but maybe some of the guys that haven't run HF Mobile, there's a little screw at the back of that radio, and you need to take a little metal strap that we'll talk about later, and it needs to go to the chassis of the vehicle. Now, the chassis of the vehicle will have to be bonded to one another, and also the components, the quarter panels, and so on and so forth. We'll get into that in a second. Okay, grounding may not be bonding. Example is running the ground wire to the battery. Okay, so here's some more frequently asked questions about bonding. How many places do I need to bond? Okay, I'm gonna move this so I can see what I've written here. Usually, you know, 10 to 12 points will work. Sometimes fewer. I'll tell you this, I have been on HF talking to a lot of guys that are big bonders. I've talked to one guy that says he has bonded his vehicle in over 50 places on his vehicle. And yeah, there are 50 different places. And we'll talk about, again, how you know when you've done enough. All right, how do I know when I've bonded enough? Okay, so the answer is the noise floor can help you decide that. So here's the test that you're gonna do. Once you've started bonding, well, before you start bonding, you're gonna have your antenna, you're gonna have all of your, you're gonna have your vehicle ready to go, and you're gonna think, okay, I've got my antenna, I've got a wire run to the radio for the coax run to the radio, I've got the positive and negative going to the battery, I'm good to go. You turn it on, You turn on your ignition and you hear a lot of noise. You hear a lot of engine noise, okay? Or you hear computer noise. And the way that you test that is you have everything on, you turn your ignition off and find out what happens to your noise level. If you have a noise level with your engine running at an S9, you turn your engine off and the noise level goes down to an S3, well, you know that you have some noise problems, some bonding that you have to do, okay? So here's a picture of an exploded vehicle. The trucks are one of the hardest thing to bond. And that's why I'm talking about trucks here, because trucks a lot of times have these rubber seals and rubber gaskets and these rubber, I'm sorry, I'm not an engineer either. So I don't know a whole lot about the way the way the car is put together into the fact of what I need to bond. But there are rubber places on there so that it gives you a smoother ride and whatnot. So it's not necessarily attached directly to the frame of the vehicle. So you have to bond those. Okay. So what are the critical places to bond? Okay, I'm going to move my guys over here so I can see. Okay. Trucks need to be bonded in the following areas: the front quarter panel, the rear quarter panel, the cab to the bed, the exhaust just before the catalytic converter, and then after the catalytic converter. All points need to be bonded to the frame. The tailgate needs to be bonded. The doors need to be bonded. The hood may also be bonded. Those are great places to bond a vehicle. And then you do that little test again to see if your noise has gone away. Okay. So what are the pieces? Okay. So building the bonding strap. So these, you need a 1-inch braid. I use 1 1/4 inch fender washers, and I use a number 12 tapping screw to go into each piece and a wood screw to drill the holes. And this just sort of gives you an idea of what I use to build my bonding straps. This is just a short one here that I did. These bonding straps can be up to 12 inches long if need be. Okay, so where do you bond? All right, so in this picture, you see an arrow at the bottom. If you'll notice, the right side of the picture is the cab. The left side is sort of like the box, the bed of the truck. Okay, so underneath there's a space that you need to bond that cab of the truck to the bed of the truck. Then you'll want to bond both of those to the frame of the truck. Okay, so we're going to go underneath the truck now and take a look and see what that looks like. So here we go. Now, part of what you can see and what you can't see, we'll start on the right-hand side and work our way to the left. Okay, so on the right, you see our fender washer, and you see a screw. You see the strap going across, and you see three screws going in. So the one on the right is the bed of the truck. The one in the middle is the cab of the truck, and it looks like it's connected there, but it's really not. There's a space between the two. And then on the far left is the frame of the truck. So we bonded all three of those together with that short strap. We have several of those throughout the truck doing something similar to that. Okay. Okay. So dealing with weird anomalies when all this happens. So if you'll notice that if you transmit and your engine dies, you got a problem, right? If you transmit and the windshield wipers activate, or when you transmit, your broadcast radio turns off. Those are all weird anomalies that can be fixed merely by using a ferrite bead. Okay, that's another common problem that we run into when we're running RF through these vehicles. Okay, so these are the sources. These are the things that I think that are important. Okay, so in other words, you're going to want the strap you can get through the Wireman. It runs about, depending on I bought it $1.80, but I think it's up to $1.95 now a foot from the Wireman, the copper braid. Up at the top shows you the fender washers, the number 12 self-tapping screws. You will have to, I typically drill those screws first, and then I'll run the self-tapper through with the impact screwdriver. And then, of course, the ferrite beads. Look, when you guys go to buy ferrite beads, if you're trying, these guys right here, I don't get paid by these fellas, okay? I don't even know them. However, I have called them on several occasions. So on the far right, these ferrite mini snap-on, the snap-on combo pack, they're 1/2 inch. In other words, you can run like LMR 400 or, you know, the big size coax, all right? RG8 type coax. You run 1/2 inch beads, 30 mix 31. They're snap-on ferrite beads. You buy those through Palomar Engineers. Now you can call these guys. They are ham radio operators that have put this company together. And I'm going to tell you something, guys. If you've never called them before, they can take care of your problem. Let's say, and outside of a vehicle RF problems, let's say that you have problems at your house. Like, let's say you have a ham shack at your house and you're getting into the home theater system. They can sell you the parts that you need. And so what I guess what I'm trying to tell you is they're a little bit on the expensive side at $5.95 for one ferrite bead. But let me tell you something. These guys, their ferrite beads are not made cheap. They're not those Chinese ones that you get on Amazon, and they work. You're guaranteed to work if you use it from these guys. And again, I don't make any money from these guys. I don't know them from Adam's house cat, but I just know that they work. They have solved several of my RF problems, okay, over the past 40 years of amateur radio. Okay, lastly, but certainly not least, this the picture on the far left for $21.95, get it from the ARRL. It is grounding and bonding. Not only does it help you in your vehicle, but it'll help you in your shack as well. And if I could recommend one thing to you guys about bonding and grounding, is buy that book. That's pretty much a sure thing, and it's got a lot of information. It's not that it's easy reading. It's not very thick, and it's a real good one. I think that's all. That's the last slide. So unless you guys have any questions.
Mary Jane, any questions from Ellendale for Joe?
All right, well, thank you. Anybody have any questions on the in-person?
Joe, will you take down your
Yeah, I'm trying to.
slide?
We'll stop sharing there. There we go.
All right, what about Zoom? Does anybody have any questions for Joe?
Anybody on Zoom?
All right. Thank you again, Joe, for taking the time to speak with us tonight. That was certainly a lot to learn. I look forward to watching this recording later to pick up on the details that I missed, but very, very interesting. So we certainly appreciate your time tonight. Right,
Joe, we'll post this on a YouTube video. That's deltaclub.org.
All right, well, before we close out, does anybody on Zoom have anything else? Anybody in person? All right, well, we are ready to adjourn. Before we adjourn, I just want to say thank you. Again, we appreciate your patience, everybody, for everything. And if you're in person, if you can, please be sure to push in your chairs. And also, we don't have a lot of help to pick up and put up the snacks and drinks and stuff. So if anybody has a few extra minutes, doesn't mind helping put up, we certainly appreciate that. So is there any objection to adjourning? All right, well, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.